name is Jolene Hall and I work as part of the enterprise support team in LOETB. One of LOETB's strategic priorities is sustainability. How do we support communities, employees and businesses in the region to become more sustainable and ensure that no one is left behind in the just transition? The past 12 months have been extremely challenging for businesses in the region with COVID and Brexit. The enterprise support team have been proactively engaging with businesses in the region to become more sustainable, competitive and to future-proof their business through our Lean Management Greenbelt programme. This programme helps organisations to identify waste, maximise value, increase productivity and improve employee engagement. Participants on the programme work on real-world business improvement projects to be implemented over the duration of the programme, delivering cost savings in excess of 25,000. The programme also encourages and facilitates sharing of best practice. In 2020, LOETB engaged with 72 employees representing 30 local companies, delivering cost savings of 750,000. Currently, we have 45 participants from 15 companies engaged in 4 programmes with projected cost savings in excess of 1.5 million. Over the past 12 months, we have been working with the hospitality industry to support them to reopen. I'd just like to share one example with you from the Midlands Park Hotel in Portlaoise. The room changeover cost pre-COVID was €10.85. Due to additional cleaning and sanitising, this cost would have doubled post-COVID. As a result of the lean management training delivered by LOETB, they have reduced the pre-shutdown cost room changeover by €1.63. They have done this by removing items from the room. This has resulted in an annual cost saving of €167,000, which equates to 2,492 room nights. LOETB are proud to play a pivotal role in the sustainability of businesses in Laois and Offaly. Delighted to be joined today by Ger McIntyre, who is the Director of Leamore Construction based in Kilcormac. Ger, thanks a million for joining us today. And I suppose your lean journey started back in 2020. What made you take that decision to implement lean in the construction industry?
Thanks, Jolene. Basically, in early 2020, we had identified within our business that there was a huge growth spurt in 2018, 2019 within the construction industry. And basically, we needed to implement new initiatives within our own company structure to allow for initiatives within our staff and more robust systems within our financial system to allow further growth without it affecting the implementation of a proper system within our company. So basically, we decided that we gathered all our management staff and our administrative staff together, and we came together with a brainstorming session with the help of LOETB, who have been hugely helpful in this process. So we gathered all our staff and we had a brainstorming session, and basically we identified 6 different areas within the company that we could make huge improvements and continuous improvement on, and that has been a success.
Okay, and I suppose over the past 12 months, Ger, I suppose we've seen the challenges of both COVID and Brexit with increase in prices and that. So how would you say the Lean Management Programme has helped to future-proof your business? And maybe you might give us an example of some of the, I suppose, projects that you have implemented as a result of it.
Yes, I suppose there's numerous different areas that it has helped our business. Like we implemented an ideas board across all our sites. So this led to employee engagement with our management staff. So they were incentivized to come forward with ideas which had a huge cost positive effect on the company. So the guy in the ground is the guy that's doing the work. So he was empowered to be engaged in the overall process of the company. So we kind of looked at from the ground up. Other aspects of it was our purchase order system. With the growth of the company, our purchase order system needed to be managed better. So we implemented a more robust purchase order system throughout our sites. And we also implemented, we're a company that does both building, contracting and civil engineering. So basically we have a lot of staff that do the work on the ground instead of subcontracting. So basically we decided that basically we would implement a preventative maintenance program across our machinery. So this was hugely successful, and it was hugely cost effective. That all our machinery didn't have downtime, but also it was cost effective. It was a more cost effective way of doing that. Also, we implemented a last planner system, a 6-week look ahead for our sites. This had a huge positive impact on our sites. So basically, instead of having a long lead-in time, we looked at the short lead-in times. We looked at the 6 weeks ahead, and basically that had a positive impact both on the projects being completed earlier and having an economic effect on the business. So there's some of the initiatives that we implemented across our sites.
Okay, and some great examples there of best practice. And have you been able to, I suppose, replicate some of those examples across all the sites?
Yes, we decided that at the early stage that different members of our management team took up certain aspects of it. So it was integrated across our sites. So if one manager, he would be looking across different sites. So the whole management structure of the company integrated across all the different areas of different sites. So anything that's implemented on one site is automatically implemented across all our sites. So it's a systemized approach that we've taken, and a manager on one site could be responsible for something happening on another site. So it has been hugely successful, yeah.
And Ger, what would you say has been the financial impact on your business? That the lean training, I suppose, from the lean training.
Yeah, I think the financial impact has been huge. Like when we set out on the journey, like 7 people took up the Yellow Belt program, including myself, and it really empowered the staff. A further 2 of those people took up the Greenbelt, and they finished that late last year, and they're now on the Black Belt. So they created a culture throughout, including myself, and we've drove it from the top down. But basically, we've created that culture and across our sites. So basically, at the moment, we done an initiative where we created a saving of we tried to create a saving of 300,000 across 2 sites, sorry, and we're very close to achieving that. So through value engineering exercises, through a big one was lay down areas on sites and motion movement, which is the movement of people. So when you're on a construction site, basically where you set up your site offices and your site containers, that people aren't traveling as much, especially in our type of company where we employ a lot of people. So this created an environment where it was very cost effective. To date, I think we're at around 260,000 of cost savings across those projects, and basically we're on target to hit our targets, which we set out at the start, and hopefully maybe exceed them.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of, I suppose, if other companies are looking at watching this now, Ger, what would you say are the key benefits, and would you encourage them to participate in this programme? And what have been the key benefits for you, I suppose, and your employees? You talk there about, I suppose, the culture of the organisation and employee engagement.
Yeah, I think the key benefit, and you've pinpointed it, is culture. And I think the culture has been a huge aspect to it. I think initially we moved to a different type of culture, a team environment and a team's environment. So one team is helping another team, that it's not a segregated approach. Now, we didn't have a segregated approach, but it just unifies teams, and it creates for a greater team spirit, but also that it's connectivity across all employees and all management staff, from the guy that's cleaning the canteen in the office to the director of the company, that there's huge connectivity across, and that everyone feels that they're striving towards achieving the one goal.
That's fantastic, Ger. Ger, listen, thanks a million for joining us today. Thank you.
No problem, thanks.
Today we're going to talk to Tomás O'Leary from Mossart, and Tomás is going to give us an overview of Nzeb and deep retrofitting. Tomás, you're very welcome and thanks for joining us today. So Tomás, if I can just start off, what is Nzeb and what are the implications for the construction industry?
So Nzeb stands for the Nearly Zero Energy Building Standard, and it was a standard that was introduced in 2019 and 2020 by the Department of Housing, and it sets the highest energy efficiency standards we've ever had in Ireland. And there are two main regulations that came out of that called Part L and Part F. And essentially it sets a high benchmark in terms of things that you might expect, like insulation, airtightness, thermal bridging, windows and doors, and also on ventilation. And it's the latest, I suppose, in a series of upgrades to their building regulations by the government. And it's not zero energy buildings, it's nearly zero energy buildings. It's another kind of station, if you like, on our journey towards zero energy buildings. And I suppose for the construction industry, the implications are that everybody's going to have to up their game in terms of the quality of design, specification, materials, execution on site, commissioning of projects and so forth. So it's got big implications for the construction industry, but also it's got benefits for the consumer as well, because effectively they'll get a better product at the end.
Okay. And Tomás, what are the key challenges in meeting government's retrofit strategy, would you say?
So there's a few key challenges there. First of all, the strategy is hugely ambitious. Depending on what you read on the internet, anywhere between 300 and 500,000 houses need to be deep retrofitted. So the volume of work that needs to be done, and that's in the next decade, is just enormous. The main challenge, I think, is basically a skill shortage and a labour shortage. Effectively, we need a lot of people. We need an army of people to work in this construction industry. You know, we're going from a very low base in terms of the number of deep retrofits that we've done historically to a very high number. And we're going to need, thousands of people who can do things like attic insulation, which is kind of obvious enough and easy enough to do, but also external wall insulation, which is more technical and for which people would need training. Also heat pumps. We're moving away from fossil fuel heat generators like gas and oil boilers towards heat pumps. So we're going to need, hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are expert in installation and commissioning of heat pumps, and then also things like ventilation systems and so forth. So I suppose the two key challenges are A, the magnitude of the project, which is up to 500,000 houses in a decade, and B, then the number of people that need to be trained up. But that's going to create a lot of job opportunities as well for people, and it's going to be spread right across the country, so it's not going to be localised only in Dublin or in the urban centres.
Okay, and I suppose there's an opportunity there for people, I suppose, already in those job positions as well, for upskilling and reskilling to, I suppose, enhance their
definitely
skills.
Yeah, I mean, in the 80s, construction was you go into a wet field with a yellow digger and you start slopping around in the muck. But nowadays construction is much more high tech. There's a lot of things now which are done off site. We're dealing with triple glazed windows. We're dealing with heat recovery ventilation systems. We're dealing with tapes and membranes. And the whole thing is like construction nowadays, is completely different than it was a couple of decades ago. So if you have been involved in construction, and there are new opportunities for everybody, and also both men and women, like we there's skills that we need. We need so many people involved in construction now, so it needs a broad base, and I think it's a very exciting time as well, and there's quite a lot of technical aspects. So it's not all about mixing concrete and putting block on block. It's becoming quite a sophisticated industry.
Okay, and what are, Tomás, would you say, what are the implications for ventilation arising from Nzeb?
Well, it's interesting. The ventilation regulation came out in 2019 before any of us knew we were going to face into this pandemic, which is COVID-19. And as a passive house enthusiast, I've always been very conscious about ventilation and air changes and filtering the air. It's just been part of what we do for the last 20 years. And now all of a sudden, if you turn on the radio, you know, everybody from Joe Duffy to whoever is talking about air changes per hour and all this kind of thing. So when the Part F regulation came out on ventilation, it talked about having ventilation systems that were better designed, you know, had to be installed and commissioned by qualified people. And I was very excited about that because it's the one thing in the regulation now that requires you to have a qualification. So if you can imagine, Jolene, with all the retrofits and all the new builds we're going to do, they all require now ventilation systems that have to be designed, installed and balanced and commissioned by qualified people. And the only place you can get that qualification is through the ETBs like LOETB. So I think, again, it's a very exciting career opportunity for people. It's not very heavy physical work. It's quite technical. It's enjoyable work. And you kind of feel that you're playing a role in indoor air quality, because in the past you bought a home and it could have been drafty, it might have been moldy. People had a hole in the wall for ventilation, which they shoved tea towels in. But we moved away from that now into a new era. And so I think I personally was really pleased with this initiative that came out from the government. And so again, we need to upskill probably thousands of construction workers in this area. And you know, so I think it's all looking very positive. And in a way, COVID-19 has helped to kind of, you know, draw attention to that in the public domain too.
Tomas, I suppose we could talk all day, and I suppose there's lots of challenges ahead, but it's, as you say, it's an exciting time. But thanks a million for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jolene.
Hi, I'm John Kelly, the manager of the National Construction Training Centre at Mount Lucas. Late last year, the Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, Simon Harris, announced that the National Construction Training Centre at Mount Lucas will become a centre of excellence for Nzeb and retrofit training. The aim is to provide the very highest standards of training and qualifications with an initial focus on Bord na Móna employees, including a Skills to Advance programme that offers the trainee an opportunity to gain a QQI certification in thermal insulation installation and includes ventilation and air tightness. In the purpose-built Nzeb and retrofit training unit at Mount Lucas, we have constructed a fully simulated training and assessment environment, including attic and roofing training rigs and a purpose-built bungalow, along with upcoming additional ventilation rigs, air tightness testing rigs, domestic heat pumps, wastewater heat recovery systems, and upgrading our roofing structures for photovoltaic panel installation training. With all these available at the centre, we can provide the highest standard of end-to-end training and assessment, all within the centre. This will provide a one-stop shop both for Nzeb and retrofit training for the Midlands region in the following areas: Nzeb fundamental awareness, thermal insulation installation, building services, Nzeb ventilation, Nzeb retrofit, domestic heat pump installation, photovoltaic panel installation, Nzeb trades including Nzeb bricklaying, Nzeb carpentry, Nzeb plastering, Nzeb plumbing and Nzeb electrical, along with the Nzeb site supervisor course. The courses in both Nzeb and retrofit on offer at Mount Lucas are designed to encourage new entrants into the sector, along with upskilling existing construction employees and related trades already in the industry. Mount Lucas will have a throughput of over 400 trainees annually on the Nzeb and retrofit training courses, making Mount Lucas a key player in the government's target to retrofit 500,000 homes by 2030. That concludes today's presentation. On behalf of myself, John Kelly, Jolene Hall and our two employer representatives, thank you for tuning in.